Hi, welcome to Center Court. This is Schultz, and I'm joined by a member of the Ukrainian Parliament, Professor Inna Sovsun. And thank you for giving some of your time today. First of all, are you safe right now?
Well, hello everyone. Thanks for having me. Well, no one is safe here in Ukraine right now. There is not a single place where anyone can say that we are safe here. So I am safe to an extent. I am safer than people in Mariupol who are under siege for more than 2 weeks without electricity, heat, water, food supplies. I'm safer than people in Kharkiv, which has been bombarded by Russians so heavily that 600 buildings have been totally destroyed, residential buildings, multiple floor buildings. I'm safer than people in Irpin and many other cities. But again, it's not completely safe because the biggest threat right now to anyone here in Ukraine is the air bombs, the airstrikes, the bombs falling on our heads, and they can fall anywhere. And I've been staying in Kiev or Kiev region for 3 weeks. Now I'm in the Western Ukraine. Actually, I took a train over the night because they announced a curfew in Kiev for 2 days. So I decided I would go to the West to see my son instead of staying home for 48 hours. But again, even here, it's not completely safe. It's nowhere is, unfortunately.
An interview you did before with the BBC, you mentioned your father fighting in Kyiv. How's he doing, if I may ask?
He's okay. He's doing better now. Well, better in terms of I don't feel worried that much about him because at the beginning he was helping the military directly and getting involved directly in that. You see my son who I was visiting, he's going downstairs. And now he is more involved in helping people evacuate from the areas which are not safe. Well, I feel better now because we did have 3 days when we couldn't get in touch with him because he was in the area of heavy fightings, helping the military to an extent possible for a 61-year-old man, but he was there, and we were not able to get in touch with him, and that was terrifying. My mom was crying and I was saying it's okay, it's going to be okay. The moment we got a message from him saying that he's alive, that was very precious moment for us. But he's okay now. He's more involved in evacuation. That is, again, not completely safe here in Ukraine because you are seeing what the Russians are doing to people who are trying to evacuate. Yeah. But it's he's alive.
How's the current fight going? Is it more defensive or is it counteroffensive?
It appears that over the night, and that apparently that is why they announced a 48 hours curfew, because the Ukrainian army started their counter-offensive around Kyiv. People are hearing major battles sounds from northwest of the city, where many Russian forces were being held, and now apparently Ukrainian army is fighting back, trying to push them further from the city. The Russians, of course, give fight. There were many we're hearing many artillery shots and all during the night and also during the day. We don't have any news on how the battle is progressing because I think that will take maybe a whole day, or something. But we do hope that they will be able to push them at least further from the city, because even if many people did leave the city, there are still at least 2 million people in the city itself. So it's getting into street battles in the capital would have been just terrifying perspective, frankly speaking. But overall, what needs to be understood is that they didn't manage to get into a single big city in Ukraine. They have overplayed their hand. I think that Putin fell victim to his own propaganda because he was always saying that Ukrainians are just waiting for me to come and liberate them. And now he's coming to small villages in southern Ukraine, or his army is coming to small villages in southern Ukraine. And people in those Russian-speaking villages are going to the streets to protest against Russians there. They're literally going to tanks with the Ukrainian flag and saying this village is Ukraine, just get out of here. And they're literally lecturing the Russian soldiers. Some of them get aggressive and start to open fire. Others are getting ashamed and trying to push like into the tank and then just disappear. And it's the same in many other cities. Like I was born and raised in the city of Kharkiv, second biggest city, eastern Ukraine, like 40 kilometers to the Russian border, like really close. They did get close to the city the first day of the war, but then Ukrainian forces and they have been bombarding Kharkiv so heavily, like it's unbelievable what they did. They were it's terrible. Literally, the first time I saw my brother, who is a grown-up 34 years old man, cry since we were children, was when he saw a missile hitting the central square in Kharkiv. It's like, this is where we grew up. We saw bombs exploding like 5 minutes walk from our school. We saw, like we were living our lives there till, when we were young, but still, it stays in part of you. And they bombarded Kharkiv so heavily. Like I was talking to some people there and they say like, oh, this area, it doesn't exist anymore just because they destroy like all the buildings there. But even after that, they didn't get into Kharkiv. And Ukrainian forces actually pushed them further from the city as of right now. So they're really bad fighters on the ground. All they can do is just throw bombs on civilian population. And that is the only strength they have, if you call it that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
They're being completely inhumane, and that is the only thing that they're capable of.
They are. One thing I think in the U.S. I've noticed from folks is they have this misperception that this is all Putin and the Russian soldiers are being duped. And what atrocities have you seen or heard of about Russian soldiers on the ground? Because I've certainly heard some.
Yeah, I have heard some of those too. And what I have to say to anyone listening is that this idea of it's just Putin, that the Russians are good overall, it's just lame. I'm sorry, it's just lame. Like about 80% of the Russians support this war against Ukraine. 80%. I was looking at just this morning and I tweeted some of those pictures that I saw because, they're using this Z letter.
Z, yeah.
Z letter as their swastika, I guess. And they now like using children in kindergarten and they're laying them in the sign of the letter Z. And those children are holding their head like in a Sieg Heil move. Kindergarten age children, they're using them to write this Z letter. And they are nuts. I'm sorry to say that is scary, that can sound discriminatory, but they are nuts. This nation is nuts. It's a totalitarian Nazi society right now. And it's the same with Russian soldiers. Of course, many of them are simply scared for their lives. So they when they're seeing that, one battalion goes into the fight and only like 30% of them come back, then they start getting scared for their lives. So they claim that, oh, I'm sorry, we recognized our mistakes and so on. I don't believe a word of what they're saying. They're all monsters. They are all doing terrible things. They know that they were given orders to shoot at civilians. They were opening fire at children. They're throwing bombs in residential area, knowing perfectly well that there are children and elderly people there. And that is not even, and I don't even mention some of the things that we have heard about how they're Ukrainian soldiers. Like we have one of the terrible reports I've read, like, oh, we have grabbed the soldier and we were beating him to the ground and then we tied him and we were pissing at him. Like, what the hell? Like, okay, you can be an enemy, but that is just degradation of human dignity. You don't do that. Ukrainian soldiers don't do that. Yes, we capture them. Yes, I believe they're being beaten, but it's different than just I don't know. They're animals. They're complete animals. And it's scary to say that the whole nation is animals, but literally 80% of those people are just crazy.
One woman I spoke to, she had to leave her shelter in Kyiv and fled. And when she got to the U.S., she was saying just evacuating, she actually saw women being sexually assaulted and civilians just being executed straight out. Indiscriminatory. I don't know where in Kyiv, but she was in a shelter in one of the apartment complexes. I believe you could also see her report on TMZ, and I can email you the link too.
We have heard reports about rapes, particularly in the areas which they got under their control. It's basically impossible to confirm or deny those right now, because we have heard those claims in the southern cities or towns which they captured from the very first days. Again, we cannot confirm or deny. People are there is very poor connection with people over there, or they are scared to talk directly because they're being captured by Russians. So I imagine this could have been happening easily. What
do you need from individuals, regular folks, to help the people of Ukraine? Because I'll put your charity list up, but also, what do you want the U.S. government to do as a whole? So both sides, individuals and government.
It's like that. Call your congressman and tell them that we need a no-fly zone. I'm sorry, we all probably sound like both our president, all MPs, everyone you hear will be repeating the same. Like, help us establish a no-fly zone. Because if we don't have a no-fly zone, everything else, all the other help we shall be getting just doesn't matter. Because they will continue bombarding us from air, killing Ukrainians and destroying our infrastructure until it's like there is nothing left, literally. So we are, I don't mean to sound ungrateful, we are grateful for the support we have got so far. We have got lots of weapons, which is being used on the ground a lot now. But and that is why we are winning on the ground, because of the training Ukrainian army did have within the last 8 years of war, because it was the training that was provided by our Western partners, because of the weapons that was provided. The highest morale possible, of course, is a factor as well. Ukrainian army is extremely motivated, but none of that would matter if we do not manage to establish some sort of no-fly zone over Ukraine. Because otherwise they will just keep bombarding us from air. Now we know that they were, because we are spring is coming, and Ukraine is a big agrarian country. This is a big part of our economy. So our understanding is that right now they will intervene with that. They will try to make sure that we don't plant anything. And that will have a longest term effect, even if we in some way finish the war within like 2 months. But our agrarian sector is agricultural sector is completely devastated, and they just don't give any yields in autumn. That will be a big hit to the economy anyways. That will lead to hunger and everything in Ukraine. So and they're bombarding our agricultural companies from air again. So you can imagine that will have a long-lasting effects, not just for Ukraine, but also for the world, because our part of the agricultural produce is big for the world overall. So establishing a no-fly zone is absolutely crucial. It's like there is nothing more important that can be done right now. And that is why the President Zelensky is speaking about that, all MPs, all Ukrainians. It's just, if we have some sort of no-fly zone, and I know the whole debate about we don't want NATO involved, we don't want to escalate and all, but we are not asking for direct NATO involvement. We are not. Like, we shall fight ourselves. We do have soldiers. We do have, specialists who can operate different equipment. We just need the equipment itself. We just need the jets, and we need the air defense system, so that we can establish this ourselves. Just cover our skies, and I'm sure our army can kick their asses on the ground. They have been doing it for 3 weeks now. We can do this. Like, the only superiority they have is this, the sky. The sky is literally the biggest thing. So if sky is covered, I'm sure we can be done with this pretty soon. And then we shall need further assistance in restoring the infrastructure, in restoring the economy and so on and so forth. But that will be after the victory. But right now we just need to stop bombs falling on our heads. That is so scary. I can't even explain that to anyone. But just try imagining this, like you are going through your life every day, and every second the bomb can just fall on your head, like literally. And this is the feeling that we have been, living, going to bed, waking up with every single day now. And it's terrifying. It's like mind-numbing feeling. Like, you can never be safe, absolutely, in your house, anywhere. So no-fly zone is number one priority, and then the rest will come.
I think just for listeners, just one point to reference, if the US would have intervened and stopped Hitler a lot earlier on, instead of waiting for the cancer to grow, millions and millions of people would have made it. And we should take that lesson here, or it will repeat itself, because we're starting to see it is.
Well, thank you, Sean, so much for saying that. That is exactly my argument, that appeasement never works with crazy dictators. We should have learned this lesson in the Second World War, literally, right? There were attempts of appeasement. Many politicians on the West were thinking like, oh, if we let a dictator just destroy an Eastern European state, that wouldn't matter much to us, right? That wouldn't touch upon the West. It would, because this is a completely gun crazy dictator who will not stop here in Ukraine. We are already hearing Russian propagandists saying that, oh, once we are done with Ukraine, that is the rhetoric they're using, we shall go further to Poland. Or I quote, borders do not matter to us. Or Finland and Sweden, which claim to be neutral, are not neutral enough. We have to enforce more neutrality, what they call on Finland and Sweden. You know, that is a totalitarian regime on offensive. He needs to be stopped, or he will go further. And he's not, okay, there is, of course, the longer history of complicated relations between Russia and Ukraine, because for centuries, Russia has been trying to subjugate Ukraine in one way or another. We have been, part of the Russian Empire. They have been trying to forbid Ukrainian language. Then they arranged for Holodomor, which is a great famine in the 1932-33, with 10 million killed here in Ukraine. So we have centuries-long history of Russian oppression against Ukraine. But right now, it's also Putin's fight, not just against Ukraine, which he really wants to, to get back to Russia very, very, very soon. But it's also Putin's fight against democracy and human rights, because he is absolutely scared that a democratic state can exist right at his border. And that can show example to Russians that they can probably get a democratic state as well. And I'm not saying Ukraine is a perfect democracy. Again, I'm representing opposition political party. We are so far from perfect, and I can talk a lot about that. But it's still a democracy where we have the change of governments, where we have elections that different people can win, where it's not necessary that the president, he will go further. Like, he hates the very values that we are standing for. And no matter how imperfect Ukrainian democracy can be, he still sees that as a threat to himself, to his proxies, to the Russian elite, and that is why he's fighting us, and that is why he will not stop when he's quote unquote is done with Ukraine.
How do you feel about this argument of, is he methodical and calculated as it's been planned for a while, or is he somehow sick and going nuts and has lost it? If that matters.
I don't know. I obviously never met a man and don't want to. Just want him dead. But I think that, thank you. But I think actually both options can be combined, with someone gone completely nuts in setting the goals, but being extremely systemic and well-disciplined in trying to execute them. So I think that is a combination. I also think that because he's gone so crazy, he is misreading the situation so badly. Like, he's literally the victim of his own propaganda. He was waiting for, that people in Ukraine will become waiting for him to release, to liberate them. That was his propaganda, and he actually fell for it himself. So he is completely nuts in terms of how he estimates the situation. Again, it's not just Putin making the decisions, right? He has the whole apparatus. He has the people working for him, and so on. So that is the whole logic of the Russian state as of this moment. Is we can attack anyone, we can take whatever we want. We're just protecting ourselves. And by ourselves, I don't mean the Russian people. I actually mean like their own assets, which are being now frozen on the West, and so on and so forth. That is what they're protecting right now. And that is the whole logic of this totalitarian Russian state right now.
Do you think what President Zelensky called for today in his address to our Congress, freezing the assets of all Russian politicians, do you think that would matter?
I think that would. I actually do believe that personal sanctions would work. It's a bit of a longer term perspective, but still they will work. And we're asking for that as well. It's a pity they were not imposed earlier. I do believe overall that if the sanctions that we are seeing right now were imposed in 2014, when Putin annexed Crimea, we wouldn't have seen this sort of war right now. Because every time the West is saying, oh, we don't want to escalate, for Putin, that is like, oh, they will not intervene, I can go further. You know, that is his logic. But right now, there are some steps in terms of establishing the personal sanctions, but not enough. I'm asking for anyone listening, again, call your congressman or woman and ask them to impose strictest personal sanctions against every member of Russian elite who is in any way involved in this war against Ukraine, and that is crucial, against their family members. Because the majority of them are actually holding their assets under the names of their like husband, wife, daughter, mother, whatever. And also for the majority of Russian elite, their children are living abroad, also in the United States. Their visas should be cancelled right now. They should go back to Mother Russia, where they belong, where they should be staying. And the fact that this has not been introduced as of yet, that is bad. I believe that once the children of Russian elite will start coming back home to Russia and saying, hey, mom, I was building this nice life in New York or California or whatever, and now I was kicked out of the United States because you did something wrong to Ukraine, that will definitely change their perspective. So I'm asking for personal sanctions as well. That would be great motivation for those people to think twice once that starts affecting their personal lives and the lives of those that they love.
I know that your time's running short, so I'll just throw in one last question. Your son obviously is very important, you like you would be to anybody. How do you as a mother talk to him about this, if I may ask, or explain it? What does he know about it?
So first of all, I'm very happy that he did not experience the sound of explosions over his head directly, because we did manage to get him out of Kyiv on time before the explosions. I'm happy about that. But I was talking to him and saying that there are bad guys who decided to take over Ukraine. And that is why he had to be relocated. That is why he cannot be living in Kyiv with me or his dad. And that is so they want to kill Ukrainians. And that is why they're throwing bombs. And that is why we have the air raid sirens. And that is why we have to treat those seriously, because once you hear the siren, that means that a bomb is coming in over general direction of where we are. And then I talked to him and said that, okay, so I did show some of the buildings destroyed. And he said, like, is our house also destroyed? Well, will they destroy our house? And that is a terrible thing to talk to your child about. Again, we are lucky our house is not destroyed. But for many people, their houses are destroyed. They have no house. Or they have, there was a story which went viral of a man whose wife, 2 children, and 2 dogs were killed while they were trying to evacuate from the city of Irpin, and his house was completely destroyed by Russians. So that is, I was trying to imagine, I can't imagine, no one can, I think, but just try to imagine the pain of a person who had a house, family, children, dogs, hobbies, work, job, everything 2 weeks ago. And now all of it is completely gone. This is so terrifying. It's like, yeah, it's terrifying. So I'm not trying to give all the details to my son, but he's 9 years old. He does get to understand that. I was just hearing him playing some online game with some of his friends. And there was an audio chat where they can also chat while playing. And I heard the children, and he's 9, so his friends are the same age, discussing what sort of bomb shelters they have and where they are hiding. And that is, I really hate Putin for the fact that our children know that right now.
And I'd like to urge any possible Russian citizens or anyone watching to remember what the Ukrainian ambassador to the United Nations said when he said there is no purgatory for war criminals. They go straight to hell. And for regular citizens, if you're not stepping out and trying to stop this, regardless of the consequences to you, you're complicit.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, that's true.
I will be sending you that link I promised you, and I don't want to take up too much of more of your time. So I definitely do appreciate you you joining us, and just know that we're going to be working with what we can here. You know, charities, passing out flyers, whatever it may be, just not letting the attention go off. And just personally know that you know, my family and I are praying for you, that you and your family stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Professor Sovsun, thank you for joining us, and stay safe.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.